Yes, indeed. As you heard, the search is frenetic, and we're not left out in that. So we do have a representative of one of the agencies saddled with the responsibility to ensure that we get a solution to this. Is Dr. Obi Adigwe, who is the DG and CEO of the National Institute for Pharmaceutical Research and Development. He joins us from Abuja. Good morning, and thank you for joining us again today. Well, quite a number of things have happened ever since, but some of those reports we saw, we might as well just get them out of the way. But first, look, tell us, where are we now looking for solutions at the moment? Could you tell us, at what point would you say we are?
So solutions are broadly divided into two categories: the non-pharmaceutical measures which are being put in place. Obviously, you heard about the updates from the Presidential Task Force yesterday, speaking about the extension of the slightly released lockdown in certain states, and for the need for there to be specific targeted lockdowns on other areas where there are hotspots. So that is progressing in terms of ensuring that non-pharmaceutical measures are being put in place to control the spread. Obviously, that's the gold standard now, because as at today, there isn't any cure for COVID-19. What most researchers and clinicians are doing is symptomatic treatment. Now, for the other part, which is looking for a pharmaceutical, phytomedicinal intervention, there is also some progress on that side. You heard about the emergency registration that was done by the FDA on remdesivir. I'm sure you obviously know that Nigeria has also signed up to WHO's solidarity trials. And then in country, there are a number of us who are also putting together protocols for undertaking clinical trials with our own particular combinations and with interventions that we feel are more contextual for the Nigerian population. Additionally, there are a number of phytomedicinal products or medicines of phytomedicinal origin which are being put forward, and I think some of them have now been submitted for us to validate those claims. So all this is the entire spectrum of what's going on in terms of addressing the COVID-19 pandemic in Nigeria.
All right, so some of the reports we played there, they also talk about the COVID organics from Madagascar. The government has said we'll subject it to all the required processes before recommending it to anyone in the country. So, is your agency part of those who will be examining that product?
So when a product comes into Nigeria, there is a process for which that product will be subjected to before it is considered deemed fit for consumption in Nigeria. The rate limiting step is having that product registered by NAFDAC. Unless a pharmaceutical product has been registered by NAFDAC, categorically, that pharmaceutical product is not fit for consumption in Nigeria. And so if a product comes in with all the data that is required for NAFDAC to undertake that assessment, then NAFDAC uses the data that the product came in with from outside Nigeria in order to make a judgment call as to whether to approve that product for use in Nigeria. However, if the product comes in without a complete set of information within the database that's meant to accompany that product, that's where institutes like NIPRID step in. National Institute for Pharmaceutical Research and Development, our job is to use empirical scientific methodologies to collect data. Once we get the data together, then the owner of that particular product, the person who has the marketing or who is applying for the marketing authorization, now presents that data to NAFDAC. Now, coming specifically to COVID organics, there's been quite a flurry of interest as regards COVID organics. And I think the discussion is not looking deep into what we should be looking into. The discussion about COVID organics, the bringing in of the product and the distribution across to other African countries has generated a lot of interest, but the interest is in the wrong area. I think we need to look deeper, and I'll tell you why. Madagascar, who came up with COVID organics, is one of the world's biggest producers of Artemisia annua. Some of our preliminary data shows that Madagascar produces up to somewhere around 10% of the entire Artemisia annua, which is used across the world. And when the COVID pandemic came up, COVID-19 pandemic came up, what they did was Dr. Charles Andrejana, who is the head of the Institute Malgache de Recherche Appliquée, reports directly to President Rajoelina. And what these people did was to identify something that grows within Madagascar, undertake some research on that particular product, and then present it to the rest of the world as something that can potentially contribute to addressing COVID-19. Now, you can see that that country has wittingly used a resource for which they are one of the world's biggest producers for, and used it to develop an intervention that's focused on a disease that's relevant not just for Madagascans, but for Africa. And then very cleverly, President Rajoelina has become the champion marketer for that product. So post-COVID-19 and during the epidemic itself, what it means is that potentially a number of countries will be depending on Madagascar for that product. So in one fell swoop, they are contributing to addressing healthcare concerns within their people's population, as well as stimulating socio-economic development for their people. Because as they're exporting COVID organics, there are farmers who are producing more of the Artemisia annua. There are people in the processing industry. There are people in the packaging industry. There are people in the distribution industry. All this within Madagascar. Everybody is being employed, and they're generating a significant amount of socio-economic activity. That's what we're missing.
Right.
And
just
that's
a
where I
moment.
think we need to focus our discussion on.
Right, but then I'd like to also take you up on something you said earlier about validating or registering, drugs, as it were. Now, you say if the data comes in and it's complete, then it will be registered. But if it's incomplete, then you will have to step in to do some work. But even at that, even if the data is registered, shouldn't we at least still probe into it and try to break it down and see what the drug really entails, rather than, depending on the data that comes in?
Yes, we should. And there are two ways we can do that. So when this product comes in, depending on the data it has come up with, NAFDAC has its own laboratories and NIPRID has its own laboratories. So the laboratories in NAFDAC are capacitated to look at that particular product to say what and what have what has this particular profile indicated are the active constituents. What are the excipients involved in this? And they can run that analysis to identify whether it fits into what the profile says it has. If it comes to NIPRID also has the capacity not just to look at the constituents of that particular product, but also to start to underpin the formulation with some form of research capabilities. So if it's something that comes in and we look at it and it contains Artemisia annua, NAFDAC will say, yes, this contains Artemisia annua. But NIPRID will say, yes, it contains Artemisia annua. But can we also compare it to the Artemisia annua that grows in Nigeria? Which one is of higher quality? And this is something similar that we're doing for neem. As a director indica is neem, Dogon Yaro, popularly known as Dogon Yaro. And we have a project on that particular product. And part of what we're looking at is comparing the quality of neem that grows in Nigeria to quality of neem that's imported, for example. And so, assuming COVID organics came to NIPRID for analysis, that is the extra bit that NIPRID will be doing. But so far, we haven't received any sample of COVID organics to undertake that analysis. So this is basically a theoretical statement now.
Pardon me, just to get it clear, COVID organics has not come to NIPRID. NIPRID is not involved at this point, right?
Not at this time. Not at this time. We haven't received any sample of COVID organics, and we haven't received any indication that we need to undertake some work. However, you know how government works. There are certain bureaucratic processes that need to be undertaken. And the fact that, as at this morning, we haven't received it does not mean that we may not receive it in the next day or so.
Bureaucracy, I also understand, we're made to understand that the PTF COVID-19 has appealed to your institute as well as NAFDAC to maybe, perhaps the word they used was relax some of those protocols so that we can have some results quicker, stemming from what my colleague asked you, how far we have gone in seeking a homegrown solution. So, is it true that you've been asked to relax some of these protocols? And how far have we gone in examining whatever it is that are on your table at this time?
Well, I don't know first of all, the presidential task force will give us a directive. They're a presidential body. The presidential task force would not appeal to NIPRID. They would direct us to look at our procedures. And without even waiting for that directive, what we've done at NIPRID is that we have expedited our processes. So in science, relaxation is not a term we're familiar with, because a scientific process needs to, if a scientific process needs to go through A, B, C, D, it has to go through A, B, C, D. What we are doing at NIPRID is, rather than skipping B and C and jumping from A to D, what we're doing is that we're working day and night to still make sure that we go through A, B, C, D. But if we were to deliver A, B, C, D in 4 days, we'll be delivering it in 2 days. And we worked over Christmas at the National Institute. We also worked over Easter to deliver on some of the things we've done. And a concrete example I can give you was when we presented our concept product development on the sanitizer. We were given 1 week to present a product to the minister. I think we achieved that in 48 hours using this particular model. So that's what we've done. We've expedited processes. Our people are working on a daily basis, working day and night. And additionally, like I mentioned the last time I was here, we've put together a national advisory committee of eminent and erudite professors across the country to also, chip in their own expertise and cognate experience for areas where we would need things to be sped up. So that's what we're doing rather than relaxing any protocols.
Shortly after you were appointed some years ago, and you granted an interview concerning vaccine production, you did say that despite the great potential of the Nigerian pharmaceutical sector, relevant policies and partnerships have not either been articulated or implemented to stimulate local vaccine production. Now, ever since you said that, have things changed?
Well, Chamberlain, thank you very much for picking up on that. I started to make that argument even before I was appointed 18 months ago. When I was the executive secretary of the Pharmaceutical Manufacturers Group, the then chairman, Dr. Okeakpa, and myself articulated and pushed the concept of medicine security as something that we need to be looking at as a country and looking at very, very seriously. I gave you the Madagascar example. In Nigeria, we have so much more potential, and our medicine security argument proposes that unless you're able to determine how your medicines are produced and distributed, you cannot determine that your people will have a sustainable access to high quality, affordable medicines, whilst at the same time ensuring that your people are benefiting from the socio-economic benefits that accrue to producing these products. After I was appointed, we developed a contextual processing protocol, and this protocol identified 3 phytomedicinal products across the country, 3 in each state across the country. And the investment of state governors in this particular phytomedicinal products will add value to the healthcare situation of the people in that state, as well as for all Nigerians, whilst at the same time stimulating job creation, capacity building, income generation for the individuals involved in the project, as well as for the subnational government in that particular setting. And this is exactly what the Madagascans have done with Artemisia annua. In Nigeria, we have over 36 products waiting, and so far, only the governors of Kaduna State, Anambra State, Ondo State, Katsina, Edo have engaged with us. The remaining 30 state governors, we've barely heard from them. This is just to show you the difference in the medicine security engagement between the Nigerian side and the Madagascan side. But coming back to your particular statement about vaccines in Nigeria, whilst I was at the Pharmaceutical Manufacturers Group, we argued strongly that based on medicine security principles, Nigeria, with a population of 200 million, should not be abdicating its responsibility for production of vaccines. And barely after a month that we gave a press statement on this, we had the meningitis outbreak, where Nigeria literally went across the world and, barely didn't find anybody who could supply meningitis vaccine, because meningitis is endemic here. It's not endemic in Europe. It's not endemic in the Americas. And this particular administration took on board our medicine security proposal and signed a 6 billion naira partnership between government and a private local manufacturer in Nigeria. That was a big step in the right direction. However, we must understand that vaccines manufacturing is not something that can be done in 6 months or even a couple of years. It's a long process, and I'm happy that this administration has prioritized vaccines manufacturing. But in terms of COVID-19, I'm afraid those capabilities will not be brought to bear to produce a vaccine in Nigeria for this particular pandemic.
Yeah, I noticed that you also spoke about a certain 6 billion naira agreement that the federal government signed with a local manufacturing company for the production of vaccines. Where are we with that?
So I can only tell you, my role for that particular partnership was the advocacy we carried out from PMG-MAN prior to my appointment as Director General of NIPRID. Having been appointed Director General of NIPRID 18 months ago, I have stepped back from that particular advocacy. My role now as Director General is to develop a research and development strategy and framework for vaccines manufacturing in Nigeria. So I cannot claim to be intimate with the details of that particular partnership now. But what I can tell you, based on updates that I've received as a member of the top management committee in the Ministry of Health, is that a bio-vaccines company has emerged from that particular partnership. That company, I think, is chaired by Professor Oyewole Tomori. And I think, I can't say this categorically, that they've made several steps in the right direction, but I would doubt that they're in any position to start manufacturing vaccines in Nigeria within the next 18 months.
While we are at that, very, very quickly, if you can give us this one, there is this committee set up by NAFDAC, Herbal Medicine Product Committee. Are you part of that committee, and how quickly do you think Nigerians can look forward to something from NIPRID? Sanitizer.
So, how fast can Nigerians get something from NIPRID? As quickly as we get funding. NIPRID has developed a product called Niprimune, which has strong immunomodulatory activity. Most of the, if not all, of the preclinical tests have been done. Findings from the preclinical tests have been published in international peer-reviewed journals, and there is incontrovertible evidence that that particular product boosts the immune system. As you're aware, the people who are at the highest risk of succumbing to COVID-19 are people who have underlying illnesses or people who have compromised immune functions. And so this particular product, Niprimune, can be seen as an invaluable tool that will contribute to any clinician's array of medicines that they can give to COVID-19 patients. However, best practice internationally is that these type of products need to be subjected through clinical studies. Clinical studies are not cheap. I think it was about 3 or 4 years ago, my predecessor at the National Institute of Pharmaceutical Research and Development presented this particular product, as well as other products that we had for hypertension and other products. And there was some indication that government would provide additional funding.
Okay.
And,
so we're definitely going to keep tabs with your agency to see how things develop, such that whatever information that you do have, a progress report can always be relayed to Nigerians. But again, we do thank you for coming on this morning, Dr. Obi Adigwe.
You're welcome, Chamberlain.